Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Mike Elko, the Texas A&M Aggies, kicking off spring practice later in the month of March. And I want to go through and give you guys my projection of what the starting lineup is going to look like for this Texas A&M team week one of the 2024 season. I think what excites me most about this roster and where it is the amount of competition and depth Texas A&M has heading into 2024. You have to give Mike Elko a ton of credit. This was already a really talented roster. What Mike Elko did was got really aggressive in the transfer portal, and I think sent a message to this program that, hey, we're going to bring in competition. If you want to start for this Texas A&M team, you are going to have to earn it in spring practice, earn it in fall camp, and you look at spring practice, fall camp, there are going to be a ton of position battles that are shaking out. I'm going to give you guys some of my predictions on who wins some of those position battles. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys and a massive shout out to the Texas A&M fans. It is no secret I am extremely high on what Mike Elko can do with this program over the next couple of years. It has been a blast talking this team in the transfer portal, doing deep dives into the position rooms, talking the recruiting trail. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And more importantly, the best part about doing this is learning from you guys, talking ball with you guys in the comment section. If you guys have some dark horses that you guys think could start for Texas A&M in 2024, let me know in the comment section. And without further ado, let's get into this one. Starting quarterback, Connor Wigman. I think a lot of the Texas A&M fans know how high I am on Connor Wigman. You go back to that 2023 film where that Texas A&M offensive line was an absolute disaster. Connor Wigman looked great. He was processing fast. He was making NFL caliber throws. I think you're looking at one of those quarterbacks that maybe for a lot of casual college football fans across the country, not too familiar with Connor Wigman, I think he really inserts himself as one of the better quarterbacks around the country heading into 2024. Extremely excited about what Connor Wigman can do now. One of those position groups that I think epitomizes the depth, the competition is that running back room. Now, I think this is exactly how you want a running back room to look. You don't want one lead guy. You want multiple guys that you trust carrying the football. Now, the question is, who emerges as that running back one? And I'm going to go with the second-year kid, Rueben Owens. And I think he is, for a couple of reasons. One, I think he's probably the most talented running back on this roster. But more importantly, he's a guy that I think fits exactly what Coach Klein wants to do on offense in terms of getting the ball to the perimeter, getting your playmakers the football in space. When you go back and watch that Kansas State offense under Coach Klein, you see what he specializes in is getting his running backs the opportunity to operate in space. And I think Rueben Owens is going to be the best fit in terms of those running backs in that room. And that is by no means a knock on Le'Veon Moss or Amari Daniels. It's more just saying I think Rueben Owens is a truly special back who fits this system extremely well and I think is really going to thrive over the next 2 years at Texas A&M. It's going to be a shared workload, but Rueben Owens is a guy that I think really can break out in that 2024 year. Another position where you got a lot of battles for reps going on is that wide receiver room. Now, I think, again, you're going to see probably a lot of wide receivers get on the field for Texas A&M. If I'm going with my top three, I'm going Moose Muhammad at that slot. Again, a guy that it's really important to the Coach Klein offense. I think Moose Muhammad is a phenomenal football player. He's going to be my pick to lead receptions, lead receiving yards as well. Now, the boundary wide receivers, Jahdae Walker is going to be one of my picks. I think Jahdae Walker, the body control, how smooth he operates before the catch, creating separation in his routes, after the catch when he has the football in his hands, I think he's special. I think he's got a special set of movement skills. I think Jahdae Walker is going to be a go-to wide receiver. Now, the other wide receiver, and I get this might get some pushback from Texas A&M fans. I would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. I'm going to go with the transfer in Cyrus Allen coming from Louisiana Tech. They're looking for a wide receiver that can work vertically down the field. And I think Noah Thomas certainly can do that with the frame and catch radius that he has. But you go back and watch Cyrus Allen at Louisiana Tech, a 70% completion percentage in those contested catch situations. He averaged 17 yards per reception at Louisiana Tech last year. This is a guy that really specializes working downfield, tracking the football, going up and making plays. And some of that stuff you can't really teach. You can talk about physical traits, but do you have the physicality at the catch point? Do you have the body control and the tracking ability? I think Cyrus Allen has that. And I think he's going to be that third wide receiver. Now, Noah Thomas, going to play a lot. I think Jabari Barber certainly going to play a lot in that slot role as well. It's a loaded wide receiver room, and I'm excited to see how it all shakes out for Texas A&M. Now, the offensive line, which I think is probably the most important conversation to have for Texas A&M. And I've said it, if this offensive line under Adam Cushing takes some steps, you're going to see this offense be one of the better offenses in the SEC. How is it going to shake out? I think you keep Chase Bisontis at that right tackle spot. Thought you saw some really good things. I think he was thrusted into a starting role maybe a little bit earlier than Texas A&M wanted to thrust him in, but you saw him go through those growing pains. But I thought you saw him play his best football towards the end of that season. Could definitely play guard as well. Looked really good at Oklahoma against Oklahoma State as a guard, but a guy as talented as Chase Bisontis, I want him at tackle. Right guard, I'm going to go with Cam Dewberry. The center spot I think is really interesting. I have Bryce Foster starting, but I think Bryce Foster has a lot of meat left on the bone. You've seen some really good things from Bryce Foster going back to his early days, going into his senior year. Would love to see him break out and kind of emerge as one of the better centers in college football, which I think you've seen flashes of. Now you just want to see a little bit more consistency. Left guard, I think you got Reuben Fothery going in and kicking into guard. I think Trey Zoon showed enough to win that left tackle spot outside of the Miami game where he was not very good. I thought he played some really good football, and I think a guy like Reuben Fothery probably best situated inside. And you take a look at this offensive line, again, a lot of competition, a lot of guys that could be starting for Texas A&M. They're probably comfortable with 8, 9, 10 guys. There's going to be a lot of competition. If you want to start on that offensive line, it's going to have to be earned. At the tight end spot, Donovan Green, I am massively excited for what he can do as a breakout player in that Coach Klein offense. Now, moving down to the defense, and you start with the defensive line that I think the problem that Mike Elko has is not a problem. It is, how do we get all these good players on the field at the same time? How do we maximize this defensive line? Right, Nick Skirton, I think, is a bona fide starter for Texas A&M. As a Big Ten guy, as a Michigan fan, I've watched Nick Skirton just tear up the Big Ten, led the conference in sacks, had a 20% pass rush win rate, was one of the better run defenders at, at that edge position as well on the inside. I'm going to lean guys like DJ Hicks and Gabriel Brown-Ladindi, and that's not necessarily a shot at a guy like Regis. I think these guys flashed their first 2 years. I think they can break out going into year 2 and year 3, respectively. Then Shamar Turner and Shamar Stewart. I would even throw in a guy like Cassius Howell. I know I'm kind of copping out here, but I think what's most special about this defensive line is you got so many bodies that really can break out, and that's exactly how you want a defensive line to look. You want to have 2 or 3 deep guys where you can rotate in, keep fresh. That's the recipe, right? You go back to Michigan in 2023. What made that defensive line so special? Yes, they had NFL talent. More importantly, they were deep. They had 8 guys that they trusted up front. I think Texas A&M certainly has those kind of numbers as well. The biggest problem you have is, hey, how do we get all these guys on the football field, maximizing what this pass rush and defensive line can look like? At the linebacker spot, Torian York was absolutely – every time I watch Texas A&M on defense, go back and watch some 2023 film, he is, for a true freshman, to show the instincts, the physicality that he has. Again, kind of being the captain of the defense at times. Torian York is not only a bona fide starter, I think he's a bona fide kind of All-American candidate for Texas A&M. You look at some of the numbers, 33 run stops, an average depth of tackle of 2 yards down the field. What does that tell you about Torian York? He's getting downfield. He's playing clean. He's making his plays at or behind the line of scrimmage. Torian York, bona fide starter. Second starter, I think, is really interesting. You have a guy in Scooby Williams who I think might get utilized more as an edge rusher for Texas A&M. That's what he came out of high school going to the Florida Gators for. They kicked him at that off-ball linebacker spot, missed a lot of tackles. His run fits weren't great for Florida. Scooby Williams is extremely talented. I'm not necessarily sure I'm going with him as that starting backer. I'm going to go Alex Howard, a guy that played really, really good football at the FCS level. I was looking at some of his numbers from Youngstown State. 6.3% missed tackle rate, 33 run stops. This is a guy that I don't know if he has the higher floor or higher ceiling than Scooby Williams in terms of an athleticism standpoint, But at a certain point, you got to want to have the linebacker that knows how to diagnose in front of him, has a lot of experience. And I think that's Alex Howard. I think he's probably gives you the best chance to have a really good linebacker group in Torian York and Alex Howard. Now, the back end, again, a ton of competition. This is probably the hardest position to project the starters. Starting with the boundary cornerbacks, I'm going to throw a little bit of a wrench in the puzzle here. And I'm going to go Will Lee from Kansas State, who I think has first-round NFL talent written all over him in terms of how smooth he is and how long he is. He gives up the big play. You have to clean that up a little bit. This was a guy that probably would have been picked in the NFL draft had he declared because of the physical traits that he has. If Will Lee puts it together, you're looking at an all-conference cornerback. Now, on the other side, I'm going to go with another high-upside guy in Donovan Sanders coming from Cal Poly. Donovan Sanders' numbers at the FCS level are elite, but I also think he has the physical traits to jump up to the SEC level and be a damn good cornerback. Now, BJ Mays, Des Ricks is going to be a popular one. That's exactly how you want it to look, right? Tyree Chappelle coming back, it is loaded, right? If the two starting boundary cornerbacks are going to be good, because it's kind of hard to see them not being good. You got 6 guys that you feel really, really comfortable with at that boundary cornerback spot. Going to the nickel, I think you're going to see a really interesting battle between Jaden Hill and Bryce Anderson. I'm going to go with Bryce Anderson because I think he gives you a little bit more of a higher ceiling. And Bryce Anderson's tricky. It was a very up and down season from Bryce Anderson. He decides to stay at Texas A&M. A lot of talent there. And Mike Elko is really good at kind of working up defensive backs. And so you look at Bryce Anderson as kind of a ball of clay for Mike Elko to work with and develop. I like what Bryce Anderson could be in 2024. Now at the safety spot, DeRicky White, not going to be in for spring practice. Really, really good at Vanderbilt. He has the length. He has the athleticism. He has the size. I'm a big fan of DeRicky White. The other guy I'm going to go with, Dalton Brooks, who played really good football in that bowl game against Oklahoma State. Again, a lot of competition. Marcus Ratcliffe coming from San Diego State, excuse me. He played really good as a true freshman. I think you like what you have with Trey Jones as well, but I really liked what I saw from Dalton Brooks. I think he is going to be a guy that probably emerges in that 2024 season, but at the end of the day, in that secondary, a lot of competition, a lot of depth, and probably going to be one of those position groups that we're really in touch and saying, hey, how is this shaking out in spring practice? As always, we'll continue to update you guys as spring practice rolls around for Texas A&M. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. More importantly, would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. We'll end it there. Appreciate y'all.